What's up, Scrutinize this fam? It's your boy KD. And apparently this is a video interview dating back 5 years ago on Oprah's network. And I don't know if they still do this, but in this particular interview, they were interviewing the Hardricts, Cory and Tia. The subject, as usual, quote unquote black love. So let's sit back as we scrutinize this.
There are times when I'm like, wow, like last year was pretty tough. But this year, it's good that we stuck, to it, or we continued to be there for one another, or had patience with one another and worked out whatever issues or difficulties that we were having, because that next year is like a completely different year and an even better year.
Now, what's interesting to me is how she pointed out sticking to it and how each year is different from the next. Shoot, each month, week is different from the next. And this is why I like to deal with the topic or the perspective of renewing marriage licenses on a yearly basis. I think you renew your license, your actual driver's license, a few years. You renew your CDL license every few years, your medical licenses. If it's called a license, why isn't it being renewed so you expose the counterfeits?
Yeah. Every year it seems to get better.
It does.
Like
it
as a
really
family
does.
first, as growth, development, careers, everything gets better.
And I fall more and more and more in love with him. I really do.
Well, Tia, do you really, truly believe that? Or is this just a facade that you are putting up for the cameras and just a facade that you like to put up all over your Instagram? We've sat through it for so many years. And that is the kind of the wavelength that most people are on right now when you look at the comments over all social media platforms. They feel fooled. They feel bamboozled. And that's why I continue to tell you all that the serpent is social media. The Adam and Eve paradigm still exists. So you have to ask yourself, who would be the serpent today? Well, most ideas are sold through social media and the commercial outlets. They have to sell you something. They sell you love, break it up, start all over again. It's all money and capitalization, just like most of these foolish holidays that you all are going to be wasting your money on. So again, since we understand, us that are three-dimensional thinkers, spiritual thinkers, we understand that there is more than just black and white, that there is a spiritual side to things, a nuance. Us that understand the revelation that this court foolishness, this family court foolishness is an antichrist version of marriage that they expect to fail. That's why they allow gays and same-sex marriages and all that to happen, because they want the failure so they are made rich, so the courts are made rich. Why don't we start putting the pressure on a license renewal so that every 3 years or so, these people, these counterfeits, are forced to make a decision whether to stay or go, whether it's real or not.
Shut up, Cory. But it's not that gushy, like the fake. I don't know. How some of these romantic comedies, they're so fake, and it's the more of like, man, like you really are my best friend.
Well, Tia, the scriptures let you know that there's a friend that'll stick close to you than any brother, and that there's nothing like the love of that man who will die for his friends. And so it's interesting to me that you would share your final thoughts to your quote-unquote fans to let them know that you plan to co-parent with your friend, that you and Cory plan to have a friendly co-parenting, which is some foolishness, because the fact that you would pretend as if or act as if, because you don't seem to know no better, you clearly don't know God's word, because you're made one now, and your one flesh must be presided over by that man. And he must teach the whole family in the case of his demise, just like Christ put his teaching forth like a madman, because he knew his demise was on the way in flesh, that his crucifixion and his torture was on the way. And so a true husbandman, a true Christ man understands that he only has a season with his disciples that he chose. In other words, he only has a season to teach the wife and the children that he's had lent to him for a season. He only has that season to give them the game, to give them the gospel. So that his legacy, in the event that he leaves this earth, his legacy carries on. That is protection, true protection. But see, these people don't understand this. And so when you talk about friend, look, ma'am, you don't get to divorce me, destroy my classroom, destroy my house, my home, my family, break it apart, and then call me a friend. No, there's not going to be any friendship. Give me my children, you walk away since that's what you want to do. But see, again, this didn't age well because clearly she wasn't really about what she thought she claimed she was. So these delusional women will cry out friendship to escape accountability, not realizing that in the spiritual, they have become Judas to their Christ man.
And I
Like,
think time has been like the result of that is we've been together a while, so it can't be that fake because a lot of people get together, you see them, they in love and tattoos, and it's over in a year, 2, 3, it's done, but we still in it. So
he's like a part of my body. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like if it's, I can't even visualize myself, you know, without Cory.
Lie.
Yes, Kales, get her together because she definitely was lying through her teeth. And hey, maybe at that moment, she tried to convince herself, like most, that there's so many things she said. You know, they talked about quote unquote fake love. They talked about the people that do the formalities and get tattoos and go on all these trips and do all this different stuff, and they appear to look fake. And I've seen so many people over social media airwaves that have been talking about how Cory and Tia have showed them what they want people to see. I'm going to put it mostly on Tia because Cory doesn't do this. Cory doesn't utilize his social media the way Tia utilizes hers. And there are a lot of people that have the audacity to even come at Cory and challenge how much he loves Tia because he has such a reserved, laid-back nature about him. Because when she does post these things, if Cory is involved, he's just standing around just like trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Just like, you know, this one of these video clips where I can't play the music because of copyright issues. She's got the Beyonce playing in the background. Give me some. And you know how there was just trend where everybody just was right in the moment. When this music play, you got to go down and you get this little sultry foolishness. And she got her father and everybody in the room. It's just this foolishness, man. You're too grown for this. But these are the ideas, the trendy ideas. Tomorrow it would be a trend where there was a trend where people were putting NyQuil in chicken and cooking it. Tomorrow, who knows what the trend will be? Somebody just jumping off a building with a noose around their neck. Who knows? Light your toe on fire trend, whatever. It's always something trendy. And these grown children with breasts follow everything. They sell ideas to the entire family. And that's why this Christian label, which really started off as a slur, a racial slur, that's what people would call that followed Christ by the Pharisees. It's a slur. And you embraced it. And tied to that Christian moniker is holidays, Christmas trees, things, all these little goofy Easter, all this stuff. And you go and you're as paganistic as you want to be. You spend your money and you make these governments rich. Because when they give you some type of stimulus or anything like that, you put it right back into the government and funnel it through this foolishness called holidays. You funnel it through birth certificates and that are stocks and bonds, like the marriage license and everything like that, and your eventual divorce. It's monetized. It's capitalized on. And so when I think about all the things that Tia said in this video, in this particular interview, it's interesting to me because, like I said, it didn't age well. It just didn't. And you put 14 years in, and it just must be something about somebody need to break down these numbers to me. Because she and her and Cory put in 14 years. Tom Brady and his wife Miss Bunchen, they put in 13. Everybody just wants a divorce. But I keep breaking down to these people. These people don't want to be in these marriages, these corporate mergers, because that's the antichrist version of what's real marriage. There's always going to be a counterfeit to God's authentic structure and his order. And these people who don't understand the revelation of the scripture itself is a story of marriage. That's why when Christ was marrying age in his culture, he chose disciples and he taught men how to, he walked in masculinity and he taught you, he gave you a walking, talking model of how you teach your wife and your family. Then he left the scene and his family, his disciples, his students, his bride, his children, they pushed on and taught the good news. That's how a structured, ordered family should go forward. Divorce should never be on the table because you cannot divorce the Godhead. The Spirit, the Father, and Christ cannot divorce itself. The Godhead cannot divorce itself. So if you are going to adopt and take on a ministry like marriage, you don't get the divorce. But y'all don't understand anything. And so you got people getting married, quote unquote, out of fairy tale aspirations. So you're not built for it. You're not qualified for it. But you want to be that 5'2" person who, even though you're built to do something else, you want to aspire to be a basketball player to 6'7", and your body just can't take the hits. Y'all can't take the hits. Because you're choosing rings over proposals. You're choosing weddings over marriage. You don't know what you're getting into. You got grown people around here talking about that you shouldn't be trained. That's for dogs and animals. Well, fool, what happens on your job? You get trained. What happens when you're going to school? You get trained in college and for certificates. You get trained. But nobody's being trained properly for marriage. Therefore, when that man asks you a question and he's bungee jumping out of a plane and mist is flying in the air and it's got some tied to his foot that says, "Will you marry me?" as he's dropping out of a plane, it's all sweet. And he gave me a ring and they took pictures and videos. That's the good part. That's the optics, the look, the makeup covering up the issues and the goofiness. But what really should happen is that you should be getting a proposal, not a fancy question dressed up in makeup. Because a true proposal, I've said it many times, true proposals will end with a lot of no's. Because true proposals need qualification. You got to be qualified to say yes to an offer. That's what a proposal is, an offer. That's what a job does, lays out an offer for you. And if you're not qualified, you have to admit it, because by the time you get on the job is going to expose that you're not ready and prepared and qualified based on what you allow, based off what happens when you go through your probationary period. There's a lot of people that just didn't cut it through probation, or they ran off because they could not handle the pressure. And that's what's happening in this world right now. Tia Mowry, who never took the last name of your husband because you cared more about your career and what you built with your name. It was set up to fail. And so when they talk about all these different things and I just fall in love with him and this, that, the other, well, falling in love means that same light switch can be turned off. That's why I keep saying to you, shout out to Chronicles of Judah 144. It's no point of falling in love. That's a drug that can be flipped. That high, you can come down off that high. But loving is what God commanded you to do, what the Lord commanded you to do, because it's work. It's your will. And every day you prove your will. You don't care about how monotonous this life is, how monotonous it is for you to go to work, get up, go to sleep, clean up, go back to sleep again, get up, go to work. That monotonous piece of life is not going to bother you because you understand that's what you're supposed to do as a freaking adult. That once you're no longer a child, then you let go all this foolishness. That's why every time a woman gains accolades, you see them bragging all over the internet about how many places they've been. Maldives and Dubai and all these other places. And they call it living their best life, but they don't even know God. So if you don't know the one who created you, how you living your best life? You're just wasting money and you won't have nothing for no retirement. And that's what Kevin Samuels meant by dying alone. You're ill prepared and you push away the very earthly protection that God meant for you in the first place. And so this is something to keep an eye on, because those children are going to be the ones that pay. Their youngest child is 4. And if you're going to walk away, you walk away. Let me keep on presiding and governing over my disciples. But see, they try to emasculate men by taking away their position in the first place. And then they wonder why there's so much chaos in these children as they grow up, walking around super emotional with issues. So, I saw this clip and I just thought to myself, this really didn't age well, first of all. And, I listened to the things that say, she did a lot of talking in this video, in this interview. And with him being as reserved as he is, and, you can tell that they have a chemistry in how they deal with each other. He reacted a lot of the ways he reacted. He would regularly react in private. He knew she was doing too much talking. He knew that she wasn't allowing him to finish sentences. Tia just was doing what she does. And so at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, man, everybody's on lifetime probation because I'm on lifetime probation. As long as we're in this flesh, you're going to be working out something because God made your ears for him. But the scriptures let you know what's in the flesh. The lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life. That means that your eyes are fleshly, looking for fleshly things, carnal things, but your spirit, faith comes by hearing. So your ears are opened up and it created for the Lord. Eve failed because she closed her ears to what she was taught in the first place and opened them up for the serpent. And that's what people are doing today for this social media. The serpent is still crying out to the woman and using her to bring down the man. Because when she gets messages, guess what she runs? Right to her men or her children. That's why these commercials and everything else are geared toward them, because this world knows that they spend the money. And then she comes to you with all these extravagant ideas and makes it sound real pretty. So you go work extra overtime until you're dead. And then she move on to the next ride. And so we're going to pay attention to this because it's going to be interesting to see how these two move on. Because I don't really believe they had a real marriage to begin with. I believe sometimes people have a good effort. But when you get indoctrinated by this world's ways, by Babylon, by modern day Babylon, it's a wrap for most. Let alone the basic people that are not in Hollywood and all the different stuff. It's a whole nother level when you on the level as these two right here. So we'll keep you updated if we see anything else, but I just wanted to put my thoughts out there about what I think about this quote unquote family court, co-parenting, marriage license foolishness. Listen, if it's really a quote unquote license, it should be renewed like every other license. And for those people that want to talk about the law and different things like that, I follow the law of the Lord. Though I'm in this world, I'm not of it. And I will separate from her. I will come out of her, as Revelation says. So for all those ministers who will marry people and say, by the power vested in me by the state of Indiana, state of Texas, you should be saying, by the power vested in me under the authority of the Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ. That's who you should be saying, because you're basically acknowledging when you name out those states that Massa, the family court, is made you an officer. You're an officer for them and not for the Lord. So that's just a little nugget for those out there. I listen for that stuff when I'm at weddings now. How many men of God quote unquote men of God will quickly say by the power vested in me and then mention the state because they are licensed ministers instead of ordained. Therefore, you should say by the power vested in me from the Lord, you know, but ain't too many people really got this thing right. And that's why you go asking a minister or a pastor or a bishop for counseling, and then you go run and sign his license, quote unquote marriage license. Then when you want a divorce, you know you got to get permission from massa, and then tuck it under the rug of irreconcilable differences because they ain't making you prove nothing no more. They giving you a divorce because you asked for it, just like you asked for it because they know it's going to give them a profit. So you're choosing your massa over the Lord. You're acknowledging that the Lord is not your master, and you're going with who tells you what you want to hear. Oh, I can get away with leaving this man and this, that, other, but that's not what God said. So you're still going to find yourself with an issue because you allowed a man to put a whole legacy in your womb and birth it out. So to go start that with other men or a man is just defilement. And when you do that, it proves you don't know the word. And whatever minister, pastor telling you, oh, it's going to be okay, baby, they're lying to you to pander you so you don't feel bad or shamed. We don't preach or teach shame anymore, and that's a problem. And that's why they don't want masculine men, because they know masculine teaching is going to be it's going to be the spirit he walks in. But I'm up out of here, man. Listen, it's time to, if we're going to run this license game, renew these marriage licenses every couple of years so these people could be honest about if they want to still be in this marriage, because they could want to be in the marriage and 2-3 years in don't want to be in it, and when that comes up to that renewal they can say I don't want to be here no more, and it'll bring down that divorce number, that 80% of women filing. But we all know that they're the pawns to break up these homes and make the courts rich. But hey, what do I know? I'm up out of here. Please hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. We out. Bad.